Hey folks, welcome back. It's the Restoration Couple with a big barn build, and today we are going to be sharing with you our underfloor heating install. I've got our old pal Jason, who was our plumber and heating engineer from the old house, is off to come up, give us a crash course, and also we are going to be sharing with you the design and all the kit that we've bought to do our DIY job on it. So stick around and let's make a start. Well, I had some help, as you saw. They've given up. They lasted an hour. So this is the vapor barrier that's going down on top of our insulation as like a detachment layer, or like just protecting the foil, I guess, from the concrete, and also making sure that the gaps don't get filled up with concrete and things don't move. Before I go into that in a future video, we've got a little bit of prep to do. All of the pipework has arrived. I think it's the best part of 2,000 meters. But I've also got a pipe decoiler, so I'm going to put that together, so that's just one less thing to do during the week. Any instructions? Well, there are no instructions, and I can't remember what it actually looks like. But I'm guessing it's something like a spinning jenny, which we use for fencing. That looks like it is the top section, that looks like the stand. It's even got some bearings on it. This is a bit fancier than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be all individual components to bolt together and really lightweight. And it wasn't too expensive. So if you want this, it will be on Facebook Marketplace in about 2 weeks' time when I'm done with it. Don't lie to him, it'll sit in the barn for another decade for that future project that will never happen. And then you'll forget you've got it and you'll end up buying or hiring another. Alright, we've got 3 or 4 components left. So I'm going to that it's going to sit on there. They go out and wedge the coil on. I think we're all good. From the only image I can find, I think this might sit on top of the reel, and that spring goes down through the middle of it, and that kind of holds it down and stops it from decoiling too soon off the top. I'm sure Jason will know what that's all about. He's coming up to help us with the install, and he's going to bring some other kit anyway. Right, we need to cut those ones over there.
It's kind of impossible.
Cut that one there, and cut those there, and then we can green all that. All right, on to the last green section. Girls become fascinated with expanding foam. Don't touch it or get it in your hair. We are finished up to the point we need to. The dog marks the end of that zone, and all of this is walk-in pantry anyway, so don't want any heat there. Right, we need to do a few things before tomorrow morning. One of those is get all of the walls mapped out on our polythene, because we're pretty much there now. The only bit we can't do is that front bit, because we haven't built the wall yet, and the front door and things like that. Plus we're running low on sand. But unlike in a house where you're putting the underfloor heating down after you built all the walls and you're just putting a screed down, we haven't got any walls yet. So we need to help visualize where things are. Therefore, some marker spray and a tape measure. Unfortunately, a few things have changed since the plans on here, but I've sent a kind of bodged Photoshop version for the pipe layout, so at least the pipe layout one is correct. So this pool store bit isn't there, but this changing room is. So let's get that line put in first, which is coming across, and this wall here is the one we need to measure. So we are 3 meters out to there, so it's on the back side of that. There, we moved the soil pipe. This one here. Right, good morning. Early start. We ran out of time last night. It got dark and there were all sorts of clubs going on. So we've got an hour now. No, I haven't. Half an hour to get the last of these bits mapped out. We've got that changing room, toilet area. This is a rear hallway, boot roomy bit. Study, WC, door through to study, door through to lounge. We are getting there. The island is the one bit we're not quite 100% decided on. So I need to wait for Jay to get back from the school run, and then we'll pick up on that, get that in the right place, and then I can spray it. So obviously things like the island, especially if there's any food or chillers or anything like that, you don't want the heating going under there. Same with the walk-in pantry. So this wall here is all storeroom. So no heating to go here. There's actually less than you think in the kitchen because it's just this space around the island, however big that's going to be. This space is table, chairs, sofa, so that's all going to be heated. So we're straight into the action. Jason came up, he brought Paul to give him a hand, and as you can see throughout the next bit of work, it's far easier if you've got more than one of you on this. If you're stapling direct to insulation, it's very difficult to do it on your own. You need a second person, and 3 people was just a luxury because I could be feeding out the pipe from the other side of the barn, and it just made the whole thing smoother. Now, there's various different ways of doing this. You can use a track system, you can use the sheets that you feed the pipe in and around the moulded sections. However, because we're going straight onto the insulation, we've got a bit of flexibility on how and where we go with our design. Now, the whole thing was mapped out on the plans, and that's how we knew how much pipe we needed, how many zones and how many manifolds. That said, there is a certain amount of changes you can make on the day, and here you can see some of it's been done in a different pattern from others, and I'll explain that now. Right, now we're out of the kitchen, we haven't got the obstacles of the units and the island. We can change from that sort of serpentine up and down pattern and go back to a spiral or a snail type layout. I thought this was going to be more difficult, so we weren't going to do it at all, but actually Jason said no, this is actually easier and you soon get the hang of it. And the benefit of this is your flow, which is bringing your hot water along from the manifold, is going all the way to the center, and then the return coming back is going every other spacing. So it means you've got a far more even heat over the floor. If you imagine just going up and down your floor, you could end up with a gradient so that one end of your room is not getting half as much of the heat as where it is closer to the manifold. So that's what we did. We changed to this design and we just did a whole load of these loops. And when we come to the actual heating system itself, we'll be able to group those loops together into different zones. The likelihood is we'll be dealing with one very large zone for the majority of downstairs, with just a few that we want to be able to isolate or heat separately. I don't know what it is lately, but every video ends with rain and it's torrential downpour again outside. Jason has gone home now, and fortunately we got loads done today, and I think I've learned enough to be dangerous with our underfloor heating. So if I give you a quick walk around, I know it's all time-lapse stuff so far, but we're about halfway through, just over halfway through, so Tom and I are going to be taking over and doing the other two manifolds. We've partly gone off the plans that were done by the supply company, but also gone a bit freestyle, or quite freestyle so far actually. We've moved the manifolds from two locations into one, so it's easier. This is the plant room, believe it or not, it will be one day. So that board there becomes the back wall, cylinder, everything on there. This whole wall will be other utilities, all the electrics and things like that. And then air source will be out there, and that's why Tom dug that little trench into the insulations, just so we can get those pipes in, ready to then come over the top. But I was waiting for Jason to tell me what we need to have in there. All of these areas we worked out this morning and last night. That's all pantry, built-in storage where we don't want heating, islands over there, and then units along the outside walls up to that steel. So they're the bits we dodged. Here was all serpentine, which is up and down, same, and then back out again. And then over here, what did we do here? This is an up and down and a snail, and the spiral is kind of what we stuck to from then on. So at this point we were trying to make sure that, because we've got our relief cuts in the concrete, I'd worked out exactly where all those are. So ideally we don't want them too many pipes crossing, and where we do have a pipe crossing, that's where we will sleeve it in some conduit, like these ones down here. That's just to mean, well, it just means that there's a little bit of give. So that sort of conduit that will be, I'll go buy the stuff with the slit in it, you can slide it over, and because it's not liquid screed, it's not going to all fill the concrete. There'll be a bit of a void between the pipe and the conduit, to give a bit of forgiveness there. Same here, we've made sure that the join is going to be cut between these two pipes, but then all of these flow and returns to other loops all have to be sleeved. Dodged a bit over there, that's under the stairs where we don't really need heating and don't want it. One spiral there, one spiral there, one there, one there, one there, and the final one at the other end. So actually all of this we kind of made up on the hoof, because it just worked better and it meant that we had less crossing those expansion joints. They're the sort of things that really they weren't on the plans, and there were a lot of places where the designer or whoever put this through the software thought all these walls already existed, whereas actually a lot of our stud walls sit on top of the slab, so we can run the underfloor underneath some of them, because they're just partition walls, and because our pipes are so deep in the slab, where there's no risk to the pipes anyway. All of this we're going to tackle tomorrow. We've moved the manifold location from behind the door here, so swinging the door the other way and putting it in a little cabinet behind the door there. That means we can mount it to a steel, and the reason why that's important is because we've got no walls in here yet. The power float they can ride that all the way up and down, all the way through, and not have anything to kind of work around. Because it's a polished concrete floor, the last thing we want to do is start introducing obstacles where we'll end up either needing a lot of hand finishing around those, or just not as good a finish. Same reason why all of the walls we've been stopped at floor level, so they'll be able to go straight over the top of these once they're tied up with the plastic. The only thing we're going to have to do differently is we're going to have to pressurize our ones off the hose pipe, off the mains. Jason had his kit that he can pressurize and flush out all the air, which means this whole manifold is done now, and it's up at 4 bar. It was at 4 bar, it's now at just over 3, but I'm guessing it's going to even out. It's not like there's a puncture somewhere, there's no water. I think just air temperature, everything's going to make a difference. And interestingly, when the screed or concrete goes in there, that's going to heat it up as well, and you can end up with the pressure rising quite a lot. So that's pressurized for now. We'll keep an eye on it throughout the next bunch of stages, because we've got all that steel reinforcements come in. There's a bit of risk there, and then obviously during the pour. But when we come to do our one, we'll have to run a hose in and a hose out and do it that way and then pressurize it, try and get them all to the same, but we can still do it. It's just probably a little bit less controlled, and that took a lot of water to do all that. I don't know, probably a couple of 100 litres. The hose was constantly on for a good kind of 10 minutes as everything was filling up and flushing through, bleeding all the air out. But yeah, I imagine that's definitely going to change with temperature. And he lends us his old reamer. So that puts us in at about 1,200 meters today. Maybe a little bit less, but definitely over 1,000. And another about 900 to 1,000 to do for Tom and I. So like I said, this bit's done. We're going to have to focus our attention back on slab prep and groundworks, which is a bit boring, but that's what we've got to do. We are running low on sand. This is good. This is a little bit high, and that's a bit messy. I'm not sure how I'm going to juggle the videos, whether we're going to stick on underfloor heating. We'll probably just do it as it happens. So this video will probably crack on tomorrow and get these steels in. So we're going to have a goalpost over the front door. They're the steels that Dave came up and placed at the bottoms. We need to resin fix them down into these footings, then build some block work. This cavity wall's got to come around those steels, and then after we've done that, then we can get back on the sand and infill it all with insulation, and probably put up some more shower curtain along here, because it is just wet, wet, wet. Big thanks to Jason and Paul for coming up today. That was a good crash course. Jason has done all sorts for us at the old house, and it's good to have a bit of a mentor, even though he probably didn't want that task. I've managed to persuade him to come up and give us a hand. But we'll leave it here, and tomorrow back on the seals. I'm going to go sort out some soggy sheep. Well, now you've seen the professionals do it, the next video in the next few days it'll be down to us to finish it off. We've got over 1,000 meters still to get in, and hopefully I can take my time a little bit more and explain some of the background to it, how we're doing it, a little bit on the design, and also where and how it sits in our slab and the design and heat demands, etc. So there we go. There's our little insight into how we got started on underfloor heating, and now we are seasoned pros. The sort of thing that you need to get right, because you can't really go back and change it. The pressure is now on. We've got less than 2 weeks until a crazy amount of work and concrete is going to get delivered, and all that stuff that's really stressing me out. So hopefully we're going to get all the prep done. Hopefully we can get all the steel in, tied, everything checked over, all the doors, all the plumbing, and have a faultless, seamless concrete pour, which is something that seems very alien to me. But you know, if we can call in the pros on this one, we can call it on the concrete and not feel ashamed. After all, there's going to be a lot of other DIY tasks we can take on in the next few weeks. But I'm going to leave it there. Huge thanks to Jason. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time.